Appreciate you meeting with me tonight, Tren. So people who don't know, Tren, do you just want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, my name is Tren Long. I live on the banks of the Payette River in Horseshoe Bend, Idaho, and I'm the importer and distributor for Zet Kayaks in the USA.
Sweet, man. Yeah. Nice setup. We already talked about that before, living on the banks of Idaho. I will be
Yeah, it's
there.
pretty hard to
I've already
complain.
talked about this, man. I'm coming up for the North Fork this year. But
Absolutely,
I
it
already
should be.
got it in
It
my
is well worth the
calendar.
trip, man. Yeah, you
Got
got
it
to
in
do
my
it one time
calendar.
at least.
We
Absolutely.
might hit the Upper Cherry in Cali while I'm kind of in that way. But anyway,
Yeah, that'd be sick.
so what have you been up to just before we get into the obvious topic here?
Nothing. I finished off the season in North America. I actually work in Australia in the winter. So actually just got back from Oz working down there and yeah, just bopping back and forth trying to stay warm and stay in the water.
So are you boating stuff down there, or do you do other job
Yeah,
things?
no. So I work at Penrith Whitewater Stadium where they had the 2000 Olympics.
Okay,
So yeah, I helped do their rafting operation and then their swiftwater rescue instruction.
sweet. So that's what that car was doing in the water that one day.
Yeah. Yeah, we do a lot of the training for like all the emergency services down there, and they've had a lot of flooding lately, and so we've been just like chocker full. And so yeah, that was we do vehicle rescue like once every other week or so. So excuse to go play around in a car.
That's wild. Yeah. So do you actually
It's
get
fun.
in the car and then have to get out? Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I have to play the dummy sometimes where I get the excuse to go play around in the car, but it's a little it's a little strange in there as it's still even though it's strapped down, it moves around a little bit, and I love it. I think it's hysterical, but most people don't like to get in it.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Are there any cool rivers down there to run?
There's heaps. The hard part is when I've been down there, most of the time I'm working like all week. And so when stuff runs, which it does, there's a couple of fun runs nearby. There's one race actually on the Snowy River that happens in like, I think it's early October. And I've missed it every year. And this next year, it's going to be the year I get to go notch it. But there's a bunch of really fun paddling and at the Whitewater Stadium, it's pump fed, but we got water every day, so get to paddle up quite a bit.
Yeah, I've actually never heard of any runs down in Australia for some reason. I don't know why, but anyway.
Yeah, it's such a big country there. I mean, up north, there's actually quite a like up in Cairns. There's heaps of good rafting, the Tully and stuff like that. That's really popular, and it's awesome.
Sweet, man. Sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds good. Glad to see you back in the U.S.
yeah,
Actually,
temporarily at least.
yeah, I feel like you're hardly ever around the United States anyway.
Yeah, I'm only here till Saturday, and then I'm gone again.
Gosh, where are you headed this time?
So we have a family meetup at a place called Playa Vanao in Panama.
Wow.
So yeah, heading down there to go hang out there with the family for like 10 days, and then I go straight back to Oz from there.
Nice, man. Well, you got a
Yeah,
busy time coming up, so I appreciate you
yeah,
fitting me in here.
absolutely.
Did you get to watch any of the green race?
I did. Yeah, I got to watch not as much as I would have liked because the timing was bad, but I always enjoy the time, during any of the big extreme races across the world. It's my favorite time to like be on social media as I know a lot of the racers in Europe, so I get to watch all the European extreme races, and then I know a lot of the racers in the US, so I get to watch everybody go have some fun, and it's awesome. I one of these years I've got to make it out. It's the hardest time of the year for me to be anywhere that's not working down south. But one of these years I'm just going to skip and come out and have some fun.
Yeah, you have to race a chili with me.
Absolutely. I think I'll race the Ninja. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't. I failed at laying down a good time, but close. One,
Hey,
one,
it
one
looks good to
mistake.
me.
One mistake away. Anyway, all right.
Yeah, it happens.
So I mean, honestly, I've been the real reason we're here to talk about the Ninja, which in the past for whatever 2 days you've had that thing posted, and I posted
Yeah.
like tons of hype around it. I've gotten a
Yeah.
lot of messages myself. People think I'm like a Zet person, but I'm not. I just like Zet. But anyway, yeah, man, lots of messages about it. I think at least for my short time of knowing Zet in like the past 2 years, like this is the boat that I've seen like people are just psyched about. So that's kind of cool to see, really. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's been a long time in coming. Like it's the one thing with Zed is that we don't like stamp out boats. Like every boat is a long time in development, and this one is no exception. Um, I've gotten to paddle a lot of the prototypes as they came through, and it just keeps getting better and better. And I seriously cannot wait to get this boat.
yeah, I know the last picture you sent me as an insider. I was like, it needs some refinement, man. Man, when I saw that last picture that everybody's seen now,
Yeah,
like that, I was like, holy crap, that looks sick. Um,
yeah.
and we'll talk about the weight ranges and stuff. Obviously, I wasn't like super like 170, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, just
Yeah.
give us some like background of like where this thing came from, what inspired it, like I don't know the history of this thing.
Yeah, so there's a Czech C1 paddler named Jan Chonka. Everybody calls him Hansa because he's Czech, and everybody's named Hansa in Czech. But he's like seriously one of the best canoers that I've ever paddled with. Like probably top five, I would imagine, of like extreme like guys that are paddling really big water and canoe really, really well. And he is just this overwhelmingly enthusiastic whitewater paddler who just loves to be in the water. The first time I ever paddled with him, he got off the plane and literally like got off the plane from Prague, like no sleep. He drove to the office, and we rallied straight to do Jake's laps because it was North Fork Championship time. So
Holy crap.
like right off the plane, and he hadn't paddled kayak in forever. We gave him like a wooden paddle with 90 or 85-degree offset. He just started just routing Jake. So got
That's a
totally
boss.
hammered the first run.
That's a boss right there.
Oh my gosh. But he's an extraordinarily passionate paddler and one of the funnest guys in the world to be on the water with. And a few years ago, he just sort of got it in him he just had this thing in his head that he really wanted to get out. And he's a very like technically minded guy. And so he just straight up started with styrofoam and just started shaping a boat like just out of his head. Like he
Wow.
just had this vision, and it was awesome because he would send me messages of like literally I have pictures of the first. It's just big styrofoam blocks, and he would just show me. Send me pictures every time he'd sand it down and sand it down. And I paddled it for the first time in 2020. Yeah, in 2020, one of the early prototypes, and I was like, dude, this is the most fun I've had in a kayak. Like, I don't know how to get this to the masses, but you've got to get this thing out there because, I mean, I've been paddling for I don't know how long, 30 years, and I the cross is fun. Like I paddle every boat that I can, and I always have fun in them. But this was like the first boat, especially for my body type and my size, where I could really do all the things that I could sort of plow up in my head. Right.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
like the first time I paddled it was in Slovenia on the Socha, and it was like, do a rock slide and then land in an eddy, use the rebound off the eddy to do a screw up. And then as the bow is landing off the screw up, drop into a wave, surf the wave across, throw a blunt, and then paddle downstream. And it was like the first time I ever had something that could allow me to, paddle the way that I could in my head.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, it looks very interesting. We can kind of pull something up here and look at it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of I love the chili in every aspect except for stern squirting. I wish it just did
Yeah.
that a little better. But that's how I feel about the chili. Like I just love that boat. And people are like, "Why do you like the chili?" I'm like, I don't know, man. It's just
You like the gas pedal.
that's right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Zet Kayaks USA might be on here. Is it on the USA site or just the normal?
Yeah, no, it should be on the USA site as long as I interneted right.
Here we go. It's sold out already.
Sold out. That's right. It. I have a feeling it will. Like I've never gotten so many messages and phone calls and stuff before we've released a boat as I have with this one.
No, no. So kind of take us through this thing a little bit. Here the let's see, just a little general spec. I know I've had some messages on the volume. Where are the rest of the specs at? Do you know off the specs off the top of your head?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think the volume is the only one that's a little fuzzy. I think it's like 82 gallons or somewhere in there. So it's 9 feet long, like all Zet boats. It's about as is a little narrower than a cross. It's list that it's looking at like about 26 inches wide. And sort of the idea behind the boat is it's not a half slice. It's a it's like a hybrid of a creeker. And I know we're going to get a lot of like the puffy steez
Yeah,
comparisons and
yeah.
stuff.
Is it the Steez
And,
Killer?
yeah, and the steez is so I knew that was coming, so I paddled the steez for like 3 months just so that I would know what the boat was like. Just because I honestly I was like, I hope this isn't a steez.
Smart man,
And
smart man.
it's a totally different boat. So this boat is designed as a fast, agile, like aggressive creek boat. And the thing that makes it the difference to between like a creek boat and a half slice, because you can see the tail does diminish and you can get it on the tail like in eddy lines and stuff. But it's the way that it paddles in whitewater and especially in big water. I'm sure then the easiest analogy I have is like when you paddle down a wave train, especially big waves in a half slice, as you crest the waves, most of the time the boat doesn't go up with you. It sort of goes under. You take it on the chest, the bow comes up, and then you sort of push the bow down as you
Right,
go.
yeah.
And this boat doesn't. It reacts more like a creek boat where the stern comes up. So it gives you more momentum through stuff. And it helps. It honestly, like the best term that I can think of it is it helps support you more like a creek boat does, right? Because a creek boat is our security blanket. I know when I'm paddling big water, I like a cross because I know what it's going to do. The stern is predictable. It floats and it keeps me on the top of the water, especially in big moves. And when I paddle a half slice, when I'm doing those big moves, I feel like the boat, especially being a bigger guy, the boat's falling underneath me. And so I'm always trying to catch up. It's like, oh, I got to be in the front. Oh, I got to be in the front. And with this boat, with the way that the volume is displaced behind the hips, it doesn't. And the way that the edge comes up a little bit, if you look like right behind the hips, if you look at the side profile, you can actually see the edge kicks up a little higher in the water line. And what that does is anytime you're carving or pushing through big water, it keeps that part of the boat floating so that it doesn't have a tendency to sink into the turns, but it drives through the turns a lot more like a creek boat does. So it makes it a lot more manageable in big, pushy water, or even as you're doing the learning progression, in less. It doesn't have to be massive for it to work. It pushes really well. So it's a really unique design that I paddled as many different boats as I could to make sure that this was something new before we jumped on board with it, and I paddled nothing like it. It's stupidly fun, and it's fun in a more of a creeker way than it is in a half slice. So it's totally not a half slice. You can get it vertical in eddy lines, and it's easy to load the bow like a half slice is, but it's not like it's not like a ripper where all you got to do is give it a little edge and look at the sky. So it finds like a really playful medium between the two that allows you to do harder stuff on bigger water than you could otherwise.
Well, yeah, I'm super psyched about it because I wanted y'all to put out something like that because, yeah, the chili, chili is great, but yeah, harder whitewater. Obviously, you want something more like this. But I see what you're talking about. That side profile, looking at it. Can you see? You can't see my screen, I'm sure.
Not right
But
now.
yeah, I can see how it's raised on the side there on the back, right behind the hips,
Yeah,
and then drops back
right
down.
behind the hips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I haven't looked at it like in detail closely yet, but I could see what you're talking about there.
And with the width of the boat, it's not just added volume for the sake of the volume. The boat actually gets a little bit wider behind your hips, so it's not, like the Liquid Logic, the Alpha, and their new boat. It's got that big bubble behind the hips, but for this boat in particular, the way that they cut the edge and the way that it's sort of flatter and wider than it is like this big bump. It 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 supports you a lot, but you can still, that stern is still super, super playful.
And let's see, what was I going to ask you? Oh, of course, the bow rocker. I know you're a huge bow rocker fan. Someone commented
Oh yeah,
I mean, Johnny Ortiz was just joking. He was like, "Where's the bow rocker? I might get my hair wet."
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it
I
seems like it's
personally
got good
like to get
enough.
my hair wet.
It's got
Yeah,
good enough, I think, for a modern, more modern boat. But I'm kind of like you. Like I don't like a ton of bow rocker. In some instances, like I've told people, you don't necessarily want to come flying out of drops. You might want to slow down a little bit before the next hole hits you or whatever. So it's not
yeah. I
always.
mean, I think that boats are sort of exploring that. Exploring the limits right now in boat design, right? How much bow rocker can we put until it is like almost negative? And it's the same thing with the rake on the stern, right? How much further forward can we make that rake so we get the skip until we start to lose performance or until you stop having speed, right? If you get too much rake, the boat's going to go up and it's not going to go forward. And so I'm honestly really happy that we didn't go with the comical amount of bow rocker, just because it helps carry downstream speed. And to be honest with you, I mean, and I could be unique in this, but when I go kayaking, I seriously want to get wet. Like when I'm paddling, I intentionally paddle into the biggest hydraulics I can find, just because it's fun to get wet. It's fun to be, under the water, and that's the thing for me. But it has a good chunk of rocker. It's pretty easy to keep the bow up, and with the stern, you can load that bow up so bloody easy. But it's not like it doesn't feel, when you're paddling, it feels really balanced. It doesn't feel like you're pushing, a nose down the river. It feels like you're paddling a boat down the river. And I found when I paddled the X, like I felt like I was just pushing this, like the prow of a ship down the river, and I was just this little guy behind a prow of a ship, and I was just like trying to get it down the run. And in this, it feels like, to me, what a creeker boat with that good balance between, having rocker, so it's easy to keep the bow up, but not so much that you lose a little bit of this play, right? I like to play that. I like to play with the angles and stuff.
Do you think it'll be more of like a southeastern type creeker, or big water, like your style, like out there type creeper, or a little bit of both, or
I
what do you
think it'll be a
envision?
good cut between. So I paddled it a lot out here on, like on North Fork water, especially when the water was up, because it's made out of the one I have is carbon. But I paddled on the Socha right in Slovenia quite a bit, down a bunch of their runs, and it's a bit more eastern creakier. I think if you're creaking in the east, I think it'll be a no-brainer. Whether, if you're doing the French Broad and you want to go paddle that, it's not going to be as easy to just do the automatic tail squirts or anything. But I hope that people don't expect that out of it, because it is a creek boat. So if it is, as far as creaking goes, it'll be awesome. I think it'll be, the quiver killer to a certain extent, in that you'll be able to do a lot with it. I think, everybody will always have a half slice for when you're doing, running the nanny or whatever. But I think for not knowing what you're getting into, or just having your go-to boat, I think it'll be a quiver killer that you can really have a lot of fun in. I know for me, I don't think I'll paddle anything else.
Well, I know for me, like I don't really like a full creek boat. Like I like this
Yeah.
type of design where you have a stern, and it's probably from coming from play boaters and slalom boaters as well. Like you like that stern to be able to load off of and pivot and all that kind of stuff. So a full creek boat in my mind, I honestly can't stand. Um, there's some I like better than others, but yeah, I
No, but I
see what
think a
you're
lot
saying.
of people, a lot of paddlers are there right now because they, the designs of the half slices have really progressed and it's become so mainstream again. That I think people are now like, well, I want my cake and I want to eat it too.
Right? Yeah.
But I think with this boat in particular, for big sized humans or normal sized humans, it'll be a really big winner. So
So will the is this pretty much what the final product is going to look like? What I see
yeah,
online? I mean,
yeah,
deck styling and
yeah. They're
everything.
Yeah, the deck styling we may tweak just a little bit, but this is like this is it. This is what the graphics might be different because we're still playing around with those. But like the 2023 LE is going to be black, but we're still working on what the trim looks like. So this boat, the Ninja, will be available in black for the duration of its life cycle. But for 2023, the LE color scheme is going to be black with something on it. So
Gotcha.
it should be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I already like the deck styling. Like, no offense to Jackson, but if they would even just put a little bit of something like this in the Narvana, it would made it look so much better. Anyway,
Yeah.
won't say anything about that. But anyway, well, the I had some questions on Messenger today about the outfitting. Will it be the normal creaking outfitting or be the
Yes.
chili?
No,
All right, so
will not be the
all
chili.
those people listening, it will not be the chili.
It
So it
will
won't
not
do
be the
not be
chili.
scared off by that. I still paddle the
No.
daggone chili is my favorite half slice, even though I've talked to Trent about this anyway. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it will have the awesome outfitting that's I
Yes.
believe is the most comfortable. Everybody calls me a Zet fanboy, but I don't care. The the outfitting is the best in Zets.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. No, it'll have the contour of the seat where they're playing around with right now to try to make it a little bit lower. Because that is one request we get a lot is like, how can I sit a little lower in my boat? And so they're playing around with, and that's just the foam of the seat, but it'll be the same diamond pattern. It'll be ratchet with the back strap, and then it'll have the adjustable thigh hooks is what looks
Well,
going to
I'm
fit.
glad you brought that up. So little paddlers like me, can you please put like two foam things in there so I can sit up? In Prana
It's
boats,
actually
no lie, in
it's one of the
Prana.
hardest parts with their boats is because it's this really specific type of foam that doesn't take on water. That's not a mini cell, but a weird like closed cell. And so, because what I was trying to get them to do was like make it like pre-perforated, so you could just like pick it out and then make your own like contours.
Makes sense. Kind of like the
But
camera boxes. Yeah.
yeah, just like like think about that. But sometimes I have these ideas and they look at me like I'm crazy. So that
Yeah,
being said, I have a lot of weird
like the
ideas.
Piranha Scorch X, I literally have six foam shims in there. So I'm I'm loving the look of this boat. I hope I'll be able to paddle it. That's my only thing. Um, so let's get into that a little bit. So what kind of boater do you think this would be for? Like beginner, intermediate, expert, all ranges?
I think that this will be in your intermediate to expert. I think it will be fine for beginners. It'll be a great boat.
Yeah,
I don't think that they're gonna.
everything can go with anything. I guess I'm saying like
Yeah,
what is it targeted mostly towards?
targeted for intermediate to advanced. I mean, like pretty much all of Zet boats, they're specifically designed for people that like to actively paddle, right? So that's the big like secret to unlocking the performance in a Zet is having a stroke in the water. If you have
Right.
if a blade in the water, a Zet will do whatever you tell it to do, and this boat will be no different. So it's definitely designed for that intermediate advance, and I actually think it will help a lot of people in that intermediate level, especially those that are like repping out with like slicey boats, but want to take it up, but their technique has sort of evolved to follow with the slicey boat, the way you set up a move, the way you edge off it drops. I think it will actually support that type of paddler as they take the next step, because it'll be a bit more cohesive with the paddling style. So if you paddle, class 3-4, and you're doing it in a half slice all the time, but you want to step it up, you don't know what boat to go with, I think this one will definitely bridge that gap and allow you to sort of explore harder whitewater without having to change your paddling style, all while giving you the benefits of the volume of a creek boat.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this a little bit, but type of rivers. I mean, you see it as mostly a creeking or a high volume water type boat. Do it all. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be a do it all, like especially with the speed and agility of it. I don't think like in massive, like the Baker, the massive stuff. I think you want a little more tail. At least I would, but I've seen Anniel run everything, Steve. So, but we won't compare there. No, I think like the creaking all the way up to like high flow rivers. I think that it's got enough volume. I've paddled it on, class 2 to class 5 in a variety of styles, and it was fun. Like I paddled it in a really big, deep channeled river with big boulders that had really significant eddy lines and hydraulics, and it was super fun because it's very slalomy, and the way that the edges drive through turns and carries the speed. And then I've paddled it, not on incredibly steep creeks, just because I don't have a plastic one. But the way that the boat performs in like North Fork water and in narrow, tight channels, it's super easy to keep the bow up. It floats over pile, and it has a lot of speed, easy to control the bow. It doesn't like run away with you or anything. So I think it'll be a pretty wide variety of water you could paddle it on.
sweet. I actually saw a comment today too. That somebody said racing. I think not, and I think you kind of debunked that a little bit about how it's designed and stuff like that. So
that's honestly, Hansa made this to be a race boat. So especially with like the head-to-head stuff, I raced a ton of the kayak cross, the extreme slalom. They changed the name back to kayak cross, and everybody does it in a Chili or a Ripper Evo because of the speed, but the sport is really, really new, and people are still learning so much about it. And it's something that I love to do, and we practice a lot. And there's some benefits in having the float and the volume of a creek boat. And so I personally plan to race this on everything that is a 9-foot cap. So King of the that's Trophy Cup, King of the Alps, North Fork Championships. This will be the boat I'll race for sure.
When I first saw this boat, that's what I was like, I might actually attempt the North Fork race this year. We'll see. Got to get some training.
Yeah, no, man, I think it'll be a good boat. It's fast. It's not. It's wider than like the 5 is. So it will. Somebody, I read a comment, on paper, it'll be slower than a Chili. On paper, it will absolutely. In dead sprints, it'll be slower than a Chili. However, I think in a head-to-head sprint down class 3, 4, 5 whitewater, I think it will hold its own against dang near anything, because the things that you lose from the narrowness and the speed you gain by float and drive and momentum. So no, I know Hansa designed it to be a race boat. Like that was the original intention anyway. So I think it'll play there hugely.
I can't quite tell from the picture, but does it have that kind of that signature flat sidewall, kind of like the Chili?
Yeah. It's not flat this way. It's more flat this way. So it has a little bit more camber out.
Gotcha.
So it's not like as boxy as the Chili, because the Chili's like.
Is it kind of like the Machete? I mean,
no, because the Machete, the angle cut's really flat. The angle cut is a lot bigger on this one, so the sidewalls are I guess sidewall is the best term. I'm terrible with like the proper
Yeah,
kayak term for this stuff,
that's all
but the
good.
sidewalls are actually a lot bigger, like, bigger than most other boats. I'm trying to think of something that's comparable, and I can't.
That's all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so back to like the paddler range. I've talked to you a little bit about this. So like it says 170, it's more like a bigger type boat, but what about
Yeah.
people like me, like 140, 135, 150-ish? What do you think?
So I think it really depends on what you're looking to get out of it. There is obviously, we're forward looking to a smaller one. If this goes well, there's already some movement in that direction. So there's nothing set in stone yet, but I know that Hansa's been canoodling it. I think it'll definitely be a boat for bigger paddlers. I think if you're $150, $160, you'll get the benefits of the boat. I think if you're sub 50, I don't know if you will or not. I can only attest to the people that I know that have paddled it. My son is 180 and he loves it. My nephew's 165 and he loves it. My brother is 155 and it paddles big on him. Like, he's not doing pivots all the time, but he doesn't, that's not really his style anyways. But like, when he loads the bow, it's still, the stern is slicey enough to be active downstream, but not necessarily in eddy lines. So I think realistically, sub 150, I don't know. Like, I try to be, especially on our site, I try to put as accurate of a weight range as I can of like what the sweet spot is. And I really think the sweet spot for this boat is like 170 to 220, 230. Which is a big range. I think, realistically, most boats have like a 20 to 30 pound sweet spot. But I had a friend who's 235 paddle it, and he looked really good in it.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely for the bigger paddler. That being said, I think, if you're sub 150, I'd have to see it. I think it'll be a fun boat regardless, but I'd worry that it would just float you too much. Right, you get into it and you can't get the boat under enough for it to perform the way it's supposed to. I actually want to get you in one,
Well, I'm gonna,
just so I
I'm
can.
gonna definitely try it.
Yeah,
But I won't give it a unfair review depending on my weight. Yeah, I mean, I'm hovering 145, so we'll see.
yeah.
Better come out with a small one. That's all I gotta say.
Hey, I've
Could be the
seen
Ninja Star or something.
the Ninja Star. That's actually good. I've seen it, and it looks pretty sweet. It looks pretty sweet.
Nice.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
But
I
will
think.
say, there's not. This will be a good like niche. I think it'll be a good
Yeah,
niche. Not a
yeah.
lot of boats for the bigger folks out there either. So, I know I actually had an email for some guy that emailed you about a large chili. So there you go.
Yeah.
You can have the Ninja
Well,
instead.
and so for those that aren't familiar with Zet, we don't size boats. We don't. There's not a small, medium, and large of anything, because the way our boats are designed is they're designed for a specific purpose at a specific weight. And so, the easiest comparison is the Cross and the Five. The Five was designed first, and it was their fast, creaky boat, like fast, super agile, super nimble, aggressive boat. And I complained forever and said we need a bigger one. And so 2 years later, they didn't blow up the Five. They redesigned the Five for a bigger weight class. And so Zet has never sized things off of a percentage. We don't scale. Every boat is redesigned from the ground up, and this one will be no exception. So it may be a little bit longer between them, but I think that's why, because in every boat there's a sweet spot, right?
Absolutely.
Like, in every size boat, there's the good one, and then the okay one, and then the bad one. And I think that's indicative of it was designed for, and I could be wrong, but every boat that I've ever known, there's always the good size that everybody likes, and then the other sizes that people fit into and hope to get the same characteristics. And for us, this boat is built for bigger paddlers. It's built for that 180 to 220 guy that wants a really fun boat that is designed for that size and designed, to really help them step up the game and give you the opportunity to have a fun, playful boat that still behaves like a creeker.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always tell people that the Cross and the Five are not the same boat at all. People are just like, isn't the Cross just a bigger five? I'm like, they don't act the same at all. Like, not even
Nope.
close. So,
Nope.
yeah, I appreciate that though. I mean, that's, yeah, you lose some characteristics when you just blow stuff up or shrink it down
Yeah.
or whatnot, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, I got like a minute and 50 left on this Zoom thing
Okay.
before it cuts off. So just some other things. When will it be available for sure? Like, can people pre-order?
Yeah. So we're going to open for pre-order January 1st. And then it looks like tentatively we're looking at a March. We're hoping for a March landing with international shipping. Whoever knows,
Right.
but that's sort of what it's looking like. It looks like we'll have some boats available in March. It'll be a limited run for the first chunk of them, so I'm not sure if we'll get a full container of them, but we'll put them up. Probably January 1st, it'll go live for pre-order. It'll be full payment to secure your boat, but we'll honor refunds. So if anybody, if you buy it and you break your leg or whatever, like, I'm not worried about selling them. We'll sell out, I'm sure, before the container lands. So yeah, if people are keen, check out the website January 1. That'll be when we go live. And we'll have a limited number in the all black. It'll be but the all black, the 2023 LE color scheme will be a black theme like this boat, but this boat will be available in black as a color.
Sick. All right.
Plus all
Everybody,
the other normal
yeah.
colors.
Well, everybody stay tuned for the Zetninja. And if you want one, January 1st, there you go. We'll be Zet USA site.
Yeah, it'll be the Zet USA site. That'll be where you'll be able to grab them. And we'll have them in our New York warehouse, our California warehouse, Asheville warehouse, and Idaho warehouse. So we'll be able to get them pretty much anywhere.
Awesome. All right. Well, appreciate it, Tren. I'm going to get off here before we get cut off. But yeah, man, thanks for your
Awesome.
time and looking forward to this
Man.
boat. Take care,
Yeah.
buddy.
Cheers.